Stranger Man, the Dragon from MST Systems. We're going to talk today about sandbag throwing, or I guess you could say keg throwing, anything throw for height, which is getting more and more common in strongman competitions. And it's something that I get a lot of questions on. And it's also something that not everybody has access to the specific kit to actually practice on. A lot of people have a bag to throw, but they don't have like a frame to throw over. So there's no kind of like gauge of where they're at. So we're going to just talk in depth about it, because it's actually, it seems a simple event on paper, but it's actually really intricate, and there's a lot of things you've got to practice to get good at it. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the two different scenarios that people face. You might get someone who's really strong, and you can just throw the bags over the height with whatever technique you use. You're really inefficient technically, but strong enough to throw the bag over. And then you've got the other person who their maximal strength isn't as high, so the bags feel heavy, but they're actually like quite efficient. Maybe they've practiced a little more and they can get the bags over. So you can end up with these two people that are two entirely different athletes, but they're getting the same time on the bag throws, because this person's strong enough, he's just throwing them over, but this person's really efficient, even though he's a lot weaker. So what we ideally want is to get a blend of both, where we're strong enough to throw the bags over, but we're really efficient. So they're going over quicker, easier, and we're able to transition between bags faster. So how do we train for the bag throw if you don't have access to a bag? Well, it's all a hip extension based exercise. So we're trying to generate force through triple extension, which is the ankles, hips, traps, everything exploding at once and throwing the sandbag. Now, we can get better at that in many different ways in the gym, but it's going to depend again, this is why it's quite an intricate subject, it depends again on the specific person. For example, can you power snatch? Do you understand triple extension, the weightlifting movements? If so, a power snatch is an absolutely brilliant thing to do, because it's practically an identical movement, but we're able to load more weight on the barbell so that we don't have to let go. You know, we can just explode with as much force as possible and get it overhead. So if you're in that boat, great. I would put power snatches into a training block up to your competition where you're going to throw these bags, because even though you're not holding the specific item, you're drilling the movement and getting really powerful at it, and it will probably transfer over really well. I can say this from experience as well, because I used to weightlift, and when I got good at snatches, even now I just go throw a sandbag. I'm really good at throwing a sandbag, just because I know the movement, the proprioception's there. I've done it a million times, and I can generate force into the bag. Now, if you're not good at power snatches, I wouldn't say it's worth your time learning it, because it's going to take you so long to learn it that you could have done other stuff in that time that will get you better at the bag throw. So plyometrics, unless you're like 150 kilo strongman, added in some plyometrics or some really good force development exercises like that, box jumps, anything where you're getting onto your tiptoes and you're able to basically generate force and let it go into the air. So on plyometric exercises, you're going to be looking at leaving the floor. A lot of strongmen have the heels planted and they're not used to driving force. Even on log press and stuff like that, they do the push press with the heels stay planted. So for those people, you need to make sure you're getting onto your tiptoes, you're getting your triple extension, and you're just getting loads of force production in those movements. So plyometrics, box jumps, even sprints or long jumps, whatever, broad jumps, whatever the hell you can do in your gym that's going to get you athletic and get you moving and exploding is going to have some decent carryover to it, as opposed to taking 6 weeks of trying to learn to power snatch, for example. Now, having said all that, there is no substitute for actually practicing the specific item. So for me, the most specific movement you can do in a gym to a bag throw is probably like a kettlebell American swing or a kettlebell snatch. Because you can actually replicate, even the hand position is the same, very close grip. You can obviously swing back, load your glutes and hamstrings, extend through with the kettlebell, and just press overhead, keep hold of it. But it's a really good exercise to do, because you can add it in as a warm up before your session, so you could train it high frequency. You could, even like a 24 kilo kettlebell, for example, you're probably never going to throw a bag that's around the 25 kilo mark, and if you are, it's going to be the last bag. So practicing kettlebell swings at the start of every session with a 24 kilo kettlebell is really specific to the actual movement. The only downfall to that is there's quite a skill to throwing bags as to throwing them in the correct throwing line. And by stopping at the top of the swing, you don't know where you're throwing. So again, you ideally do need to be able to get somewhere and practice. So even if you don't have something to throw over, just getting an empty keg, or getting a sandbag to throw and going in a field or a park or whatever and just throwing it. And if either getting a training partner to use, just their eye to see where it's going, or just record yourself, that's going to be hugely beneficial as well. Other things that people forget on the sandbag throw is the transition between bags. So there's loads of things you can improve on to get good at it. So once you've got good at throwing the sandbag in this line and you're very consistent with it, the next thing is we've got to remember you've got to throw 4 in a row. So something you can learn to get out of if you practice is watching the sandbag. Because what people do is they throw the first sandbag and they watch it, and then once it's cleared, they go right and they go to the next one. If you're confident enough and if you've practiced enough, you can throw that sandbag, know that it's going over, and then be at the next sandbag while that one's landing. And that can save you a second on each sandbag, which doesn't sound a lot, but these sandbag throws often get close in competition. If you've got 4 or 5 sandbags, you save 4 or 5 seconds, you've now just gone up 4 or 5 places, you know what I mean? You got an event win just because you didn't watch your sandbag go over the bar. So that's another skill you can practice. Now, one of the final skills you need to practice is the amount of swings you take between your legs before you let go of the sandbag. So I'm sure you know what I mean. People, if they throw the first sandbag, they get the second one, and they'll swing it between their leg, and then they throw. So they've done 2 swings. Again, that's a second extra. You want to be doing 1 swing minimum. So you need to practice that in your training. Don't practice on getting as high as you can all the time. Practice on getting as high as you can with 1 swing so that it becomes drilled into your nervous system that you can generate all the force you need on 1 swing. And again, if you add that up on 5 bags, it's going to add up to 4 or 5 seconds. And that's how you're going to start to win competitions on a bag throw, is by being good at the intricate little bits that people forget. Everybody's always so concentrated on how high they throw them and the line. And that is important, but once you master that, don't think that's it, you've done the event. There's loads of other bits you need to master. Other things that can crop up in certain comps is the distance they place the sandbag to the actual frame you're throwing over. You need to learn how far you like to stand away from the frame. So sometimes in the competition, the bag will be set up perfectly where you can just grab it and throw. Other times it might be a little further away. So you need to understand where you need to stand so that you can grab the bag, take a couple of steps backwards to where you want to be and throw it. And all these things, these little intricate details, add up over time and practice to a really perfect competition day performance. And it's not something that you're going to probably do first time round because it takes a long time to master. But if you practice bag throw all the time, year round, when they crop up in competitions, you're going to do really well because people tend to add this kind of stuff in when the competition crops up. Whereas you can keep your kettlebell swings in as a warm-up at the start of every session. You know what I mean? You can keep some plyometric work in there. If you power snatch, if you've got your Olympic movements, you can keep them ticking over all year round. So that when it's time to practice the bag, you've already got this big base you've built over 6 to 8 months to work with instead of just trying to claw your way at it for 6 weeks. Anyway, I know it's a lot of rambling on what seems a simple event, but it is quite complex, and if you apply these principles, you'll get really good benefit from it on competition day. So if you like the video, yeah, and follow MSD Systems on Instagram. Got loads more good stuff on there, I swear.